Next week, a new movie is coming out. A new retelling of the ancient Greek epic poem, the Odyssey. The movie will take us along on the quest of the hero Odysseus as he makes a 10-year journey home from the Trojan War to his wife, son, and kingdom on the island of Ithaca. Along the way, Odysseus battles gods and monsters, and even once he arrives home, it is not so easy to settle back into his old life. This story is why the word Odyssey is now synonymous with a long, epic journey. In this week's Torah portion, we find another long journey, though the Israelites are near the end of their travels. In Parashat Masei, meaning journeys, we find the Israelites preparing to enter the Promised Land after 40 years of wandering. Similarly to the story of Odysseus, if we were to draw a line between where the Israelites start and end, it would not be terribly far. Odysseus should have taken about a week to sail from Troy to Ithaca, not 10 years. And the Israelites actually managed to reach the Promised Land approximately 1 year after leaving Egypt. But they keep wandering for another 40. In each story, the hero has their destination in sight, but they are blown off course. Why? The Torah and the Odyssey have something in common. Both aim to tell us something about the human condition. There must be something essential that happens along the way before we can come home. So why did the Israelites have to wander? A few weeks ago, we read that when they first sent scouts into the land of Canaan, 10 out of 12 came back with horrible reports. The people were frightened and refused to enter the land. As punishment for their lack of faith, God cursed the Israelites to wander for 40 years and issued the decree that none of the generation freed from Egypt would live to see the Promised Land. They were too stubborn, too quick to abandon God. In so many ways, they just weren't ready to enter the Promised Land. The Israelites didn't need those 40 years of wandering because Canaan was far away. They needed 40 years because it takes time to grow up. Parashat Masei opens with the verse, "These are the journeys of the Israelites who started out from the land of Egypt, troop by troop, in the charge of Moses and Aaron." The Torah then goes on to enumerate 42 locations where the Israelites made camp. These stops create a dotted line through the desert that somehow encompasses miracles and disaster, joy and pain, and the death and birth of generations. Each stop carries a lesson for the Israelites and for us, and little by little, we discover along with them what it means to be human. In the wilderness of Sin, the people are starving, and they berate Moses for bringing them out of Egypt to die. In response, God brings down manna from heaven to feed them. And this is not to reward their complaining. After 400 years of oppression, we must remember that God can provide. At Sinai, we received the Torah. And our Midrash tells us that every Jewish soul is present at this moment. Revelation is the ultimate communal experience. And when we look back, we see the moment where a crowd of former slaves begins to see itself as a unified people, bound together by covenant. At Kadesh, Moses' sister Miriam dies, and her well dries up. Grief tears through Moses, and he commits the sin of striking a rock to bring forth water, though God had told him to speak to it. Moses, the most humble person in the world, makes a mistake. And we make the painful discovery that grief can shake even the strongest leader. Near Jericho, Moses appoints Joshua to lead the people when he is gone. After rebellion, loss, and repeated challenges to Moses' leadership, Joshua's appointment models a kinder transition of power. We see the Israelites begin to build a totally innovative system. one where leadership is earned through merit, not by lineage or power grab. In Parashat Masei, we get these 42 stops, but not the events of what happened in each place. Why don't we get these stories? The medieval commentator Rashi asks an even more pointed question. Why are the journeys recorded at all? Rashi is assuming that there must be a deeper meaning to the list than just historical documentation. In the Midrash Bamidbar Rabbah, the rabbis explain that God told Moses, "Write the journeys that Israel traveled in the wilderness so that they will know what miracles I performed on their behalf." There seems to be a fear that with the end of the road in sight, the people will forget what they went through in order to arrive at this moment. And they went through miracles, food and water from impossible sources, and pillars of cloud and fire to guide the way. And they also went through loss. A generation of people died in the desert. Hundreds of thousands of souls never saw the land they left Egypt to find. Their lives are no less holy because their journey ended far too early. The Israelites must not forget what it cost to enter the promised land. We must not forget. Listing the Israelite camps is how our Torah tells us that remembering the wilderness is our sacred obligation. There's a Kabbalistic teaching that says the 42 Israelite camps correspond to the 42-letter secret name of God, which would mean that the entire trek through the desert was a process of uncovering and building a relationship with the divine. What if we had entered the land after just 1 year? What if we skipped to the end of our story before discovering what it meant to be God's people? The relationship would not be the same. While we may have arrived at our intended destination ahead of schedule, something would be missing. I want to tell you about a conversation that I had a year before I applied to rabbinical school. I had been working as a youth director, and I was tired. I felt like it was time to move on and start the next thing. So I got on the phone with the director of admissions for Hebrew Union College, and I asked for his advice on when I should apply, and he said something surprising. He said, "If you feel like there is anything left to learn in your job, you should stay for 1 more year." And I was floored, because I thought his job was to get me in the door as fast as possible. But I took his advice, and I ended up staying on for 1 more year. And of course, it was the best year I had. And it was no less exhausting, but it was enlightening, because another year of growth allowed me to enter rabbinical school as a more fully formed person. I could have applied early, but I would have missed some of the stops. In listing the 42 camps, Parashat Masei tells us that the Israelites could not have entered the promised land without going on the journey. The people who are about to cross the Jordan River are literally not the same people who left Egypt. They are a new generation, shaped by experiences they could only have had in the desert, both miraculous and tragic. When you're safe and well-fed at home, there's no need for manna from heaven. When you're entrenched in the power structures of slavery, there's no need to understand how to appoint your own leaders. When you're only looking out for your own self-interest, there's no need to be a part of a communal covenant. And these don't need to be lessons we only acknowledge in hindsight. They're real for us now. Our lives rarely take straight paths from point A to B. We're blown off course, both for joy and tragedy. And these diversions can be immensely frustrating. We imagine that everything would work out if we could just arrive. The Torah is a little more patient than we are. And Parashat Masei understands that just because we have reached the promised land, we do not necessarily understand what it means to live there. Our Torah reminds us that our tangled paths are not aimless wandering. They're the very thing that prepares us for where we're going. So I think back to Odysseus, whose journey, like ours, is not just a part of the story, it is the story. The 20th century Greek poet, C.P. Cavafy, imagined speaking directly to Odysseus, and he pictures the hero just about to set out on the journey, and he writes, "Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you're destined for. But don't hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years, so you're old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you've gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvelous journey. Without her, you wouldn't have set out. She has nothing left to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have fooled you. Wise as you have become, so full of experience, you'll have understood by then what these Ithacas mean." Cavafy is speaking to us as well, telling us not to hurry the journey. Parashat Masei tells us not to forget it. Not a single moment. The hunger, the manna, the revelation, the people who did not make it. And it tells us not to forget the God we encountered along the way. The journey is the story, and our story is a holy one. Shabbat Shalom.